All right, so today we're going to talk about simplifying radicals. This is 5-2 part 1. Our next lesson will be 5-2 part 2. So this will be available on our Canvas site for you to look at later, as well as this video is always available. I went ahead and typed out all of the steps, but in order for the steps to make sense, I think we need to work through a couple of examples to see what I am talking about. What you want to do, you're going to break it into two parts. You're going to break it into the part with the number, so in this case 150, and you're going to break it into the part with the variables. And we're going to take one part at a time. So we need to remember the number 150, and we need to remember that this is a square root, meaning the index is 2. Okay, that's important. We then move over to Desmos, graphing. Make sure to click the graphing calculator. And we put that number in, and we divide it by x raised to the power of whatever root that was. So in this example, it's a square root, so we're going to do x squared. Had it been a cubed root, we would have done x to the third. Okay, so that could change accordingly. We did do this for quadratic formula, so if you were doing any of the quadratic formula, you may think, hey, this looks familiar. That's why. We are then, so let me go back. We then hit the settings gear there, so there it is. See it highlighted? Okay, and then we're going to hit table to look at the table. And what I want to do is go down here to the empty box and pick a higher number. So let's try 9, not high enough. I want a number that is less than 1. That one's less than 1. Okay, so I know that my number has to be less than that. And I'm going to keep trying numbers until I get one without a decimal. Might take you a minute, that's okay. There we go. 5 is the biggest x value with the smallest y value that is not a decimal. So I need to remember 5, 6. Okay. So 5, 6. And what I'm going to do is put the 5 on the outside because that was the x value and the 6 on the inside. So 5 radical 6 is the square root of 150 simplified. Okay, so that was part 1. For part 2, I'll do some color coding here. For part 2, for the variable, I am going to take the exponent and divide it by the index. Okay, so 2 divided by 2 is 1. So that means that I get x to the first power on the outside. There is no leftover, right? 2 divided by 2 is 1, no remainder, we're good. Okay, let's do the same thing with y. Y to the third, so 3 divided by 2 is 1. However, that does not divide nicely. So if I have, some people like this graphic here. So if I have 3 of something and I need to divide it into groups of 2, I have one group of 2 with 1 left over. My leftover stays under the radical. If I had had more leftovers, they stay under the radical. Okay, so that's simplifying in a nutshell. So let's try it again. Okay, this time, I'll change my color back. We're going to do negative 189, and we're going to be dividing by x cubed in Desmos. Okay, settings, table. Now notice to get a positive number in the y value, I need a negative over here. That doesn't really matter because if you notice negative 2 and 2 give me the same y value, just opposite signs. You just have to remember that you need to make it a negative as your answer. So let's do 10. Okay, that's way too small of a number. So 8, still too small. 6, still too small. 5, 4, 3. All right. So 3 works. So what happens if I did -3? Ah, there we go. We like the positive under the radical. So that just meant change the signs. So -3 and 7. So -3 and 7. Change it to pink here so that we talk about. Okay, so that's to the first power. So 1 divided by 3. So if I had 1 of something, how many groups of 3 can I make? Well, none. So A just has to stay home hanging out. There's not enough of them to leave the house. They can only leave in groups of 3. Speaking of which, I need to put that little index there. Okay? But what about 5 divided by 3? So if I have 5 of something and I need to put it in groups of 3, I have 1 group of 3 with 2 left over. Okay? We will be practicing more of this in class. So here's examples. Examples 3 and 4 are exactly like that. We have 1 step to do beforehand. We just need to multiply outside together and then inside together first and then simplify. So there's nothing on the outside, just 1 times 1. We're good there. On the inside, 2 times 6 is 12. X times x squared, that means I have 3 of them, so that's x cubed. Now I'm going to simplify. So it is a square root. I will be dividing by x squared, so 12 divided by x squared. Settings table. If I do 3, 4, look at that, that's already too small. So my answer has to be the 2, 3 for simplifying. 2 and then 3. So 2 on the outside, 3 on the inside. Now, x cubed. I have 3 x's. I need to break them into pairs or divide it by 2. That happens once with 1 left over. And that's my final answer. Okay. And one last problem. There's assumed to be a 1 if there's nothing there. So 1 times -4 is -4. That's what I mean by outsides. We multiply the outside together. There were no outsides on the other one, so that didn't really apply. And then we're going to multiply the insides together. So 36 times 3 is 108. X to the 4th, so that means there's 4 of them and 4 more of them. It means that I have x to the 8th. This time I'm looking at a cubed root again. 108 divided by x cubed. Settings, table. Okay, way too small. Still too small. Still too small. Ah, there we go. 3 and 4. Notice no decimal there. 3 and then 4. So what happens is the 3 comes out here to join the -4, and the 4 stays home. Okay. Then x to the 8th. So if I have 8 of them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. How many groups of 3 do I have? Or 8 divided by 3 is 2, with 2 left over. My last step, -12x squared, square root of 4x squared.